All right, guys, which one you like better? You like that one or that one? Can't really see it. Turkey wagon. Turkey wagon. What do you think? I don't know. I'm thinking I like the turkey wagon. Boy, that's pretty cool. All right, be back in a second. All right, y'all. Welcome to Between the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Yeah, let's see. What do you want? You want the turkey? What do you guys like? Locals, you like the turkey? Look, so I'm on locals before, and I'm like, let's do this thing real quick before I got to do this other focus group. And I guess I don't know. We changed up, and I mean, look, like I said, you guys are gonna know soon enough anyway, so I can't really say it, but there's a big project, bunch of us are working on, and I thought it was because one was traveling. Well, that may give it away. And I took other ones to moderate, and we kind of switched things around. I still thought that I had today's at noon, but I don't. I got another time a little bit later. I got some other stuff to do, and then Thursday and Friday. But Friday will not interrupt Inside the Numbers, okay? And even if it somehow managed to go long, we'll jump on anyway, and we'll do something anyway. So since there's all this styling things going on, let's boop, 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 boop. Let's boop, boop, boop. All right, let's just keep it there. All right. So before we did this, I was doing, a thing on the Copium on the right being very, very, very strong, and they have to fix this. They have to take their heads out of their asses really, really soon, or they're going to get cooked really bad. And I'm going to give you an example of some copium in a second, but let's first go and look. Ours is not in the RCP average yet. I got to go and send it over to them, but we have new ones coming out anyway. That's why I didn't do it. And I mean, they'll be done for Inside the Numbers on Friday. So I was, contrary to public opinion of wannabes, I was waiting to see if potentially, the noise quieted out a little bit, and then, send it on over. But I think that it's very clear, direction wise, it's not going to quiet out. So let's look at other people before we look at our trend. And this is what is on RCP right now. Okay. So here is the generic congressional vote for Real Clear Politics. And you can clearly see that, Marist is crazy. I mean, I don't know, guys. Plus 14. I've never seen a generic ballot that big. I think that's insane. We haven't had a vote share that much, but I do think that they're obviously picking up. So Marist is usually about a 5-point Democratic bias, depending. From the House vote, they'll typically tighten a little bit. But if that's why I don't like when pollsters are scored only on their final poll. I think that the totality of their activity and their behavior should be considered when scoring, and the National Association of Independent Pollsters, of which I am the chairman, when we begin to release our pollster ratings, which are going to be different than other pollster ratings. We're not going to be smearing people. It'll be something that's actually based on sound I mean, it's not even, I mean, statistics, but it'll be based on sound best practices over the years. You'll see that we will also take into consideration the totality of a pollster's record. So if you're throwing out bullshit like Democrat plus 14, and then by the time we get to the November election, you're tightening it up to Democrat plus 6, I mean, public opinion, as we have shown you over and over again, very rarely swings that much that quickly. Okay. What's happening right now is that people are beginning to formulate their views. We're going to go into the holidays, and then once the holidays are over and people get into the new year grind, they're going to remember the narrative that they have in their heads going into this year. It doesn't mean they'll be solid and stuck in their ways, but it does mean that it gets very difficult to persuade people to change their mind when that happens. And I spoke, if you were watching War Room this morning, you'd see that I did speak on War Room about this with Bannon. If you speak to congressmen, which we have been, if you speak to Republicans in the Senate, if you speak to the administration, who's more lost in the sauce than I ever could have imagined, they'll tell you that they're expecting a headwind, and that headwind is going to help them going into the midterms. There are several problems with that thesis. And one is what I'm saying to you right now. It gets increasingly difficult to convince people that they should change their minds once they have basically made up their minds. There is something going on when it comes to, I'm going to put this one up there. That's awfully busy, but I like it. No, okay. Turkey pumpkin. Yeah, that does look better. There's something that's going to start to stick here. It already has. And it's this idea among voters on their own side and on the right and right-leaning independents that Republicans blew their best chance at getting significant change that, addresses their needs, addresses their concerns, and addresses their fears. I told Steve this. Again, this will be public at some point too, I imagine. But I have been doing autopsies in various states and counties where the Republicans got their asses kicked, including in Pennsylvania and Virginia. And what we see, I'm not doing so much in New Jersey, all right, unless they want to, they want to bring me on board to do it, I'll do it. But what we're seeing, not only by the research, we're actually interviewing people and conducting focus groups. And what we're also seeing, it is reaffirming the results we're finding when we go through their stuff. And by their stuff, I mean the text messages that were sent out for get out the vote. And locals, bear with me because I know you know this. The text messages that were sent out by parties, whether it was the state party or the county parties, that were telling people, hey, listen, the election, is on Tuesday, November, blah, 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 blah. Don't forget, if you haven't voted early, to request your ballot. If they did request their ballot, which honestly, they're not even micro-targeting like this. The Republicans they're generations behind Democrats, but they're not even micro-targeting. Like they know somebody requested a ballot. So then now they're saying, don't forget to send your ballot in. If you got something that said, don't forget to send your ballot in, believe me when I tell you that they had no idea that you actually requested your ballot already. They're just taking shots in the dark, and it's blanket messaging. There's no micro-targeting. Anyway, the number one thing that was sent back, the number one reason people often, it's called peer-to-peer interactions, which you guys know probably from polling, but it's not that often based on elections where they'll send back a response. You should have an agent, which they don't, getting ready to field that response and then respond to the voter. The same agent who texted them to begin with, respond to that voter with a personal reply that's tailored to their needs or their reply, like the needs of their reply. They're not doing that. They're not using the AI, which has been built solely for this purpose. They're not using it correctly. The number one response on why people said, F you, I'm not voting, was not the government shutdown. Even in Northern Virginia, it wasn't the case. Yes, it was a reason mentioned, but it's not. There were two things that beat out the government shutdown, and the number one mention was Epstein. And it's voters under the age of 50, for sure. But guess what? They make up the largest share of this. And then beyond that, it's Israel. And what it is it really Epstein? Is it really Israel? No. It's that those two are proxies for the greater feeling of how, the greater belief of how they saw this administration and the Republican Congress go off the path. And it started with Epstein as a proxy for holding the rich, powerful, abusive, evil, in some cases, holding them accountable. They didn't do it. And the gaslighting, and I got to tell you, if the president's advisors had any balls, they would have told him that Truth Social post saying, I don't want your support anymore, was deeply damaging. So we see this all the time. I read a response, which I'm not going to reread. I read a response on Locals before. This is a 33-year-old police officer from Pennsylvania. This is a Trumper who's been with Trump from the beginning. You broke the guy's heart, and he's not going to come out and vote for friggin' Brian Fitzpatrick. Like, it's unbelievable the damage they did, and they don't even realize they did. And then there's like the Copium, which is beyond anything I think I've ever seen from the left. The Copium on the right now is far worse than anything I have ever seen on the left. I'm not kidding. That's where they are. Now, it's not everybody, because the Cope people are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. They're just getting tinier and tinier, being replaced by people who are upset, who have lost faith, who are straight pissed off, desperate. When I tell you, and this is real talk here, because it's time for this to cut through all the bullshit. When I tell you that the four of us as a group polling, these are the best pollsters MAGA has ever hoped to have, measuring their people. We're hearing suicidal ideations on the other end of the freaking line. I'm not kidding. That I don't think I've ever heard suicidal ideations before. There are people who are like, this was my last chance. This was our last chance. I don't even know what the point of carrying on is. What? I just never thought I've been there before, but I'm telling you, Mark took one and posted it on Twitter. After just meeting with the president, which is the second meeting in as many weeks, trying to pop the bubble that our group has had, he put that up there because he's like, somebody's from the administration has got to reach out to this guy. Like, I can't listen to this shit. That's terrible. Anyway, you can see what I put up before. The Marquette poll is Democrat +5, very much like the Qantas poll, which was conducted the 11th through the 12th. Ours came out of the field on the 14th, I believe. Let me go and look. This one. Wait, there's my data set. Hold on, let me go to my data set. Check and describe. It came out on the 10th. So, which was Democrat 7.9 came out of the field. I'm talking about not when it came out. It came out of the field. The last interviews 9 days ago. So when you see that the Marist poll or the Marquette poll started in the field on the 5th, you can see the trajectory of where this has been going. Now, the Marist poll was conducted from the 10th to the 13th. It is exaggerated. But if Marquette started on the 5th and got Democrat +5, Qantas came out right around the time that we did and had a Democrat +5. But then we're a day or two later and it's Democrat +8. And then there's Marquette, which was in the field on the Marist, which was in the field in 3 days later, and it's Democrat +14. You can see that directionally here, this is going in the wrong direction for Republicans. And I got to tell you, the comparisons to 2018 may not even be fair. The maps are different. They're more favorable to Democrats now when you're talking about the generic House vote. We're talking about the House of Representatives. Because of redistricting after the 2020 census, the congressional district maps are more favorable to Democrats than they were in 2018. And that is true even if the Supreme Court strikes down the VRA, Section 2 of the VRA, And even if the ruling yesterday from the Trump appointed, Ted Cruz recruited judge in Texas that threw out the Republican map. This is why the right loses. Would you ever see a liberal judge do something like this to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Barack Obama? Of course not. Why is that? Because I'm increasingly believing that a lot of this copium is actually astroturfed DeSantis, Haley people who are trying to sabotage Donald Trump and MAGA. And they're the people who pick these judges, right? The Cruz and Con Inc. wing of the Republican Party that couldn't win an election to save their life before Donald Trump came along. This is why the right loses, because they have an element that is a saboteur element. The left doesn't have that. The cause goes before everything, everyone, and everything. And it's become increasingly clear that the president's being assaulted by posers who are trying to hurt him. And then also people who just don't care about him. They care about themselves and lining their own pockets. They don't care about the future of MAGA. They don't care about you. They don't care about the country, apparently. They're going to make money hand over fist over this infighting. And they're totally okay with that. If it destroys J.D. Vance's chances to win in 28, who cares? I'll still make a ton of money off of J.D. That's the way they think. And these two elements are assaulting Trump from both sides, and he's just making bad decision after bad decision, like we saw last night, which was none of these interviews takes into consideration any of what happened last night, which was that Thomas Massie, who the president can't stand, and his advisors are telling him, I just spoke to someone early, just an hour ago. They think Massie's cooked. They are telling the president that they're going to beat Thomas Massie by like 40 points. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. That's what they believe. There's no even doubt or at least that's what they tell him. There's no doubt Massie's going to go down in this primary challenge. Folks, they have done this to Thomas Massie before. He cooked them. He's now the author or the predominant. He is the man who just passed the most popular piece of legislation we've seen in months, maybe even throughout the entire Trump administration. He is the antagonist behind the most popular bill that anyone has put on the floor in months, which is the bill to release the Epstein files, which, by the way, I didn't personally, I'll just say this. I'm not protecting pedophiles. This is where the right is these days. This will set a very bad precedent. People will be hurt by this. It's going to happen. There will be innocent people who get hurt. This was all totally avoidable if Donald Trump, who knows, Pam Bondi walked him into the buzzsaw. Okay. So this idea of like 4D chess is bullshit. That's not how the president makes decisions. The president makes decisions by talking to all these different people and getting these input. And often whoever is just in his ear last and makes sense to his gut is the one who persuades him. All right. There's no 4D chess thing going on. All right. And well, he really backed Democrats in a corner here. And now he's going to pull no, stop it. The horseshoe, whatever. Stop it. Stop it. To anyone who knows anything, you sound ridiculous. He was outmaneuvered. He made a bad decision. Pam Bondi put him in a bad place, but he didn't react to it. He's loyal to a fault. I think part of that is Susie is very good friends with Pam Bondi, and he's loyal to Susie, and he's loyal to his people. And he was trying to make this work and trying to bully people who had, criticisms of how he was, of not only him, but how Pam Bondi. But you sit down and talk to the president and he will tell you, she fucked me up here. All right. So cut the shit. That's not true. All right. It's just not. And everybody who knows it's not. Boebert couldn't be swayed. And once Boebert couldn't be swayed, he was outmaneuvered. And it sucks because this was very avoidable. He could have just said from the very beginning what Republicans were saying now, which is this has to be done right. We're going to hurt innocent people a little bit. This is what I anticipate. Guys, minus the influencer invites to the White House for Binders Part 1. Okay. minus the tactic that I'm going to call it a hoax, minus that, like you didn't need this stuff. There's no reason for this. Minus the attacks on everybody who were trying to hold, the people's feet to the fire to do what they knew the base wanted done. And by the way, which included my friend Charlie. All right. And minus 100% minus the post that said, I don't want your support anymore. And all he had to do was say, listen, you got faith in me? Put the faith in me. I'll get this done. This is a corrupt ass agency. They don't care about hurting innocent people. I don't want that to happen. Give us a little bit of time. I know Pam's talking shit. Don't listen to her. She's doing a great job, but she effed up here. Just be honest. But now let's pivot to the stuff that I know you voted for me to get done. That's it. That's all he had to do. Of course, he would have had to deliver over time, but that's all he had to do. But instead, he didn't. He did all the things I just mentioned. He didn't pivot to those things. He pivoted to Israel, which voters are so pissed about. He pivoted to something he had been lobbied to do for months, which you guys don't know. This didn't just come up out of nowhere. The first foreign leader to step foot in Trump's office was Benjamin Netanyahu. He had been doing it since the end of January. And you got to remember how this all really went. The big, beautiful bill was not getting through the Senate. The Lindsey Grahams and the Ted Cruz were pulling their BB cards. That's how this went. He said, I'll do something, okay? Leave me alone. I'm going to do something. Just get the damn bill passed. And he strung them along. They wanted regime change. And he strung them along. He did a limited strike, which they were pissed about, but the bill was passed and we all moved on. So part of this, again, you could say it wasn't really Trump's fault, but I think he underestimated his power at the time. He didn't have to play that game with Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and Tom Tillis. Like, he didn't have to do that. He was like Richard Nixon, almost reelected level powerful coming out of that election. It's the direction he chose to go in. All right. And did it matter? Did it give him any political capital? There's an old adage in this game, in political academia and psephology, right? That foreign policy cannot save you. It will not save your presidency, but it sure as hell can end it. You don't get the benefit of sacrifice. All right. On net, sacrificing domestic policy agendas for foreign policy agendas as a matter of just time and priority is a net negative on presidents. Woodrow Wilson lamented the shit out of it. It destroyed George Bush's legacy. Okay. Barack Obama knew this all too well, which is why he would not get tangled up in shit. Did he conduct strikes? Absolutely. But Obama was constantly focused on the domestic. And no matter how much Barack Obama was disapproved on the economy, Americans still, and whether you like it or not, Americans still believed that he was focused on their concerns, that he prioritized their concerns. I mean, most of you guys watching know that's bullshit, but that was the optics of it. And when you polled Americans and you said, did you approve of Barack Obama and the economy? They would say no. But do you think Barack Obama cares about you and is trying to improve the economy? Yes. Who do you blame for the economy? George Bush and Republicans. And he took that tactic right off the bat. Now Republicans are trying to pivot and blame Biden and blame for not having the pre-COVID economy. They're changing horses mid-race, and that's going to be very, very difficult. Obama knew you had to do that and do it hard from the beginning. It worked. It worked for a long time. In fact, even to the point, if you look at the exit polls from 2012, you'll see voters did not blame Barack Obama for it. All right. So I gotta point out a specific cope here. All right, which is that the foreign policy numbers are so great that it is somehow worth everything else that's been lost. That's ridiculous. So let's play the clip And then when we come back, we'll actually look at the numbers. All right.
One of the areas in which Donald Trump is performing significantly better than he was in term one. One of his best issues relative to term one. What are we talking about? Approve of Trump on foreign policy at this point in term one. Look, Donald Trump was just at a 35% approval rating. Up like a rocket. We're talking about 43% now. That's an
up like a rocket
on the net approval rating. We're talking about a double-digit rise. The American people like much more of what they're seeing from Donald Trump in foreign policy in term two than they did in term number one.
So often presidents in their second term, usually later in their second term, frankly, will turn to foreign policy. So how does President Trump compare to past presidents in their second term?
You know, this to me is one of the most interesting data points, because normally when we look at these data points, we see that Trump is doing worse than other presidents. But on this one, he is doing significantly better, because take a look here. All right, 21st century foreign policy approval rating at this point in term two. George W. Bush was down at 36%. Barack Obama was at 37%. Look at this. Donald Trump actually leads the pack at 43%. Donald Trump has a higher foreign policy approval rating at this point in a second term than any other president who served their entire second term in the 21st century. This is something I think Donald Trump really likes to look at, because the bottom line is this: presidents like to build their legacies off of foreign policy. And at this particular point, the American people like much more of what Donald Trump's doing on foreign policy than either of the two.
Guys, it's 43 fucking percent. Okay? Excuse my language. It's 43 fucking percent. Imagine coping so hard about something that you're celebrating Harry Enton's average. What does he call it? Harry Enton's aggregate, right? Imagine being a coper so hard that you are going to Harry Enton to celebrate a 43% approval rating on foreign policy. Here's a few things Harry left out. That the 20th century and even the 21st century, Americans hated that shit. They hated that they did that. And those presidents got their asses kicked in their second year midterms. How did Bush do in his second year midterm? How did Barack Obama do in his second year midterm? Didn't work out very well at all. And here's the real big kicker. They're both consecutive second terms. Donald Trump is the only Grover Cleveland, guys, had another term that was non-consecutive. There's a reason for it. Because they didn't want the foreign policy bullshit that Biden was giving them. They wanted a return to a domestic focused agenda like Donald Trump gave them in his first term. They had voter remorse from listening to all the BS from the media and all the BS from the Democrats. This is exactly what they didn't elect Donald Trump to be, like all the others. That's the hard truth. 43%. Funny, because on Real Clear Politics, it's not even 43%. It is, but well, we're going to Enton's aggregate now to cope, right? It's 42.7. And actually, you can see that we're on this one. We're in this current average, and we're actually among the highest for Donald Trump. We are the highest approval for Donald Trump on foreign policy, and it's tied at 47. Others are negative, but it still doesn't make up for the ground that is being lost because he didn't focus on what he was supposed to be different. That's what you're missing. He was supposed to be different. Harry left that part out. Harry also left out the well-known mantra that foreign policy cannot save you, but it sure as hell can end you. It will end your legacy. It will end your majority. They elected him to be somebody different, to do something different, which was what, guys? For once in a change, for once in the 21st century, for once in the 20th century, to put them first. And by the way, those presidents all tried to use, except for Bush, George W. Bush, tried to use those second terms in order the political capital that they got. Stop calling me. I'm sick of freaking people calling me in the middle of a rant because you're pissed. They tried to use the first year of those second terms to get something done domestically, except for George W. Bush, who used his political capital on what? The Iraq War. He even said famously, I got political capital now and I intend to spend it. Well, he spent it all right, unwisely. And so did Donald Trump. That is the truth. Unfettered, unabashed, uncensored, whether you like it or not. Here's another thing Harry left out in our polling as well. that his approval rating among those is foreign policy. Let's see if I can pull up that one real quick. Foreign policy, national security. Come on, load up, load up, load up. Education. Okay, here we go. Perfect. There it is. Let's remove this. Let's bring up the crosstabs from the poll that has the highest approval rating for Donald Trump for foreign policy, which is me, yours truly. The poll that's in Real Clear Politics right now is this one. And I already used the interactive crosstabs. I know it's small. I'll make it bigger. View, zoom in, in. All right. So now you can see it very well. What do you see here? What do you see here? Donald Trump's approval on foreign policy is being propped up by voters who do not intend to vote Republican on the generic ballot anyway. It's being propped up by voters who have a college degree. Look at Trump's base. Look at Trump's base. They don't have the higher approval rating for Trump among foreign policy. Let's look at education by race. White non-college is at 49, right? Look at white college. These are Democratic voters who like that neocon shit. They like that modern neoliberal that doesn't focus them. Why? Because their lives are fine. They're doing well. They got good paying jobs. Their world is just fine. Behind those gates, everything is going great. Behind those fences, swell. Not for the rest of the country, which voted Donald Trump in. So you're being artificially propped up by a voting base that does not intend to vote for you anyway. They're not going to vote for your candidates. In fact, they're going to vote for, and actually, can I get this here? They're going to vote for the opponents of Donald Trump who are going to try to impeach him. And among those, by the way, who non-white college Democrats, 32.5. Non-white, non-college is Democrat, 52-23. I mean, white non-college is Republican, 47-36. You need a much bigger margin than that. And by the way, that's the October 28 poll. That is not the most recent one that we have, which shows that, I mean, Republicans are getting their asses absolutely handed to them. I mean, it's really bad. Marist, again, like I said, they'll never miss an opportunity, guys, to exaggerate the Democratic lead. But Marist is not that far off the actual direction, which is, look at this. How do you even do? That's a mouth. It's coming to eat the Republican majority because they're not listening and they're coping. Look at that. It's the freaking great white. Jack loves his Jaws themes, right? That's what's coming. Better wake the hell up, man. Get out of the water. Get out of the water. In this case, get out of the Kool-Aid. Otherwise, it is what it is. You're cooked. That's all. Like I said, Friday, maybe locals, you'll probably even get it before then. Maybe I'll at least give you something before then. But Senate races in Minnesota, in New Hampshire, and in North Carolina. And I was able to do that because of some other stuff that we are doing. All right. So you will see how it is out there. And by the way, I mean, we didn't do every potential. I mean, some people just don't really have a chance who are running in the primary. So we did only the likely, obviously, matchups. And so, I mean, it's the strongest Republican candidates in theory that they have. Not great. It's not good. What else? Let's see. there was something else I needed to bring up to you guys before I left, but I did speak to locals about this briefly, which is about the importance of Iowa and how people are overstating, and in Ohio too, are overstating Republican strength in these states in an environment like this. In the last time the environment, I can't really say this bad, because the truth is the environment right now, it may not be the case by the time we get to the midterms, but the environment now is actually worse for Republicans than it ended up being in 2018 when Democrats took the House back from Republicans, and they failed to take the Senate. But look, Donald Trump's approval rating on the economy was really good. You think the voters who are going to vote on the Senate majority are going to be thinking about foreign policy when they cast their vote for the U.S. Senate? They will not. I guarantee you they will not. Unless there's, and I don't even want to say it out loud, but that only happened in the 21st century one time in a midterm. And that was a horrible event. So you get the idea. That is not what I mean, the world has a way of throwing things at you, but let's just assume some horrible thing like that does not happen. And even if it did, I'm not sure it would benefit Republicans. I just, politically, I don't think it will. The top three issues are all economic condition issues. Inflation, cost of living. I mean, people should just stop saying inflation, because that's why we don't pull it like that. We say cost of living or inflation. And people will always say, oh no, cost of living. Some people say inflation, but they're talking about the cost of their life, the cost of things, their rent, their car payments, their insurance, their mortgages, the groceries, gas, utilities. So they say cost of living. The second one is more about jobs, and it's economy and jobs. They feel like they have no other opportunity but to make a lateral move or a backward move if they decide to change jobs, if they're lucky enough to have one. And actually this month, which we can show you also on the screen, you can see, oh, it is up already. Let's go to the portfolio, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. This is, where are you? Why is employment status like this? Am I going to have to show you the data thing? No, it just didn't change. Okay. You can see that employed full-time actually fell. Employed part-time rose slightly, but unemployed and looking shot up like a rocket. Like a rocket, Harry. Like a rocket to 43%. What ridiculous. This is a rocket in relative terms. Unemployed looking went to 9.4, which is a high for us, a high. And unemployed not looking is not a high, but it did rise pretty badly. I think, yeah, there it is. Looks like late November of 2021 was the high for that. Disabled also shot up, which is concerning because people leave the workforce, as you can see they did here, and they stopped looking, and they leave the workforce and they'll go and apply for like disability or something. This was a big problem in the Obama era. You would see the unemployed basically quit. I mean, what they're telling you here is, folks, they're quitting on the American dream. You know, there was a modest rise in students, but this is nothing. It's statistically insignificant. We haven't seen an increase, like a large increase, since the beginning of the Biden administration, when people went back to school because they thought this economy sucks. I might as well go back to school if I can while I can. And then the retired actually fell. So it's not like you saw all of these people leaving the workforce to go retire. That's not where this came. That's not what happened here. A lot of people filed for disability, which is terrible. That's terrible. Those are systemic. Those turn into systemic long-term labor force problems, and you'll never stay and exceed 63% labor force participation ratio with that. It's not going to happen. Those are really bad numbers, but I'm really honestly not surprised. All right. And the argument that AI, it's not that bad. AI is just taking your jobs. is insane to hear, guys, from a Trump administration, considering what they ran on. Now, I'm not saying we can stop the tide of AI. It is the cat's out of the bag. I mean, there's no, or the genie's out of the bottle. Oh my God, you don't even want to know what Pam Bondi just said. Oh my God. Oh my God, these people are clueless. Oh Lord. They're believe me when I tell you, like, efforts to pierce the veil and pop the bubble are not working. At first, we were optimistic. And by we, I mean myself and every other pollster who knows what's going on and has credibility on this. And enough, we thought, to maybe wake people up. Apparently not. All right. I mean, it's hard to, some people don't like to hear that they've made, not some people, most human beings don't like to be told when they were wrong. They don't want to admit when they were wrong, and they don't want to admit when they made a mistake. They don't want to admit, especially over something that's over the long term, that your advice basically means that they have to make dramatic changes that are going to be difficult on them. And it's easier to believe that you could just keep going to get along and like kind of scrape by and do your best to avoid pitfalls and whatever disasters. But unfortunately, that's not how it works in politics. If you don't dramatically course correct when you're in a dive like this, you just keep diving. You just keep diving. And considering the get out the vote infrastructure, Republicans without Trump on the ballot and even being liked right now, the prospects of getting these voters out is nil at this point. I mean, it's nil. A big part of our generic ballot shift was Democrats did go up a little bit, guys. I mean, if we go back and look at what happened here, Democrats did increase. This is one bright spot for Republicans. They did increase, but we're only talking about 43 to 47. The Marist poll is just, in my opinion, crazy. 43 to 47. It's that Republicans collapsed, and they collapsed from their voters saying, I don't want to vote. I'm voting for someone else. I'm undecided. And it's weird because some of the undecided and a lot of the someone else's shifted to Democrats, which rose the Democratic vote margin. But that was offset by so many right-leaning voters going back into those columns. That is a recipe for a malaise. Okay. So, and a malaise is in like the voters they're basically done. They don't support you anymore. They don't want, maybe they'll even say they like you and they like you more than the others, but they don't approve of what you've been doing. They don't think you've addressed their concerns, and they're not going to get out and lend you the support. I don't know how much I really should say or willing to say, but I'm telling you that the people who worked on these elections will be able to tell you firsthand. They're knocking on doors. They see the truck in the driveway. They see the American flag. They see the Trump sticker. They see the Trump signs. They're not even coming to the door. They're not even coming to the door. Seasoned door knockers going, this isn't worth my time. I'm done for this cycle. That's what happened to Republicans in those last elections. They saw this. They know that these are people who have been knocking for years and years and years and years, and they're telling us, I quit 2 weeks before the election. I had it. It was very clear these Trump voters were not going to support us. So I don't know, what is the point of pretending all is well, celebrating a 43% foreign policy rating is pathetic. It's a level of copium that is worse than anything you saw from Harris voters. It is. At this point, with Biden, Democrats actually popped their bubble so hard and stopped coping so hard, they threw their own sitting president off the ticket in an effort to fix it, to course correct. The bubble on the right now is way worse than it was on the left. That's something. That's really something. Think about that. Think about it. There came to a point where eventually they just said, we cannot bullshit anymore. We can't gaslight ourselves anymore. We can't gaslight the voters anymore. Biden has to go. And I'm not saying that that's what requires here of Republican. I'm saying they were so willing to wake up and change course that they actually threw their own president off the ballot. Republicans aren't even willing to course correct. The left's got TDS. Somebody on Local said this. They're right. The left has TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. The right has, well, not all on the right. Like I said, this group is dwindling, and the problem is they're just hurting him so bad on the way down. They have TOS, which is Trump obsessive syndrome. And again, I think a lot of it is fake. I got to be real with you guys. I think a lot of it's just fake. Like, I know a lot of these people supported Nikki Haley. They supported Ron DeSantis. And now they're Trump's biggest cheerleaders. We brought up one on What Are the Odds on Monday. This is a guy who cheerleaded for Donald Trump to shut down the economy during COVID, publicly argued with Barnes and I. The AP called us to talk about how we were the only ones who were saying this. And why aren't you in line with MAGA? And because they're about to slit their own throats. That's why. And that is what happened. Then these people jumped off the Trump chain, supported Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, and attacked Donald Trump for the COVID lockdowns. So there is this like subversion element within this supposed faction of clappers for Donald Trump. They're not. They just learned that like flattering Trump is a sure way to keep him going in the same direction. I fully believe that now. And by the way, they're on X. They're in the White House. They're in the cabinet. They've learned how to deal with Donald Trump. They've learned. They've evolved. And this was not at all effective to just hammer him, over and over and over and over again and be a never Trumper like they are. So instead, this time they decided we'll co-opt him. We'll encourage him to do the stupid shit. And then when he crashes and burns, he'll take Vance with him. And we can put either Cruz or DeSantis in there. And by the way, that's a ticket that's going to get maybe 55 million votes. Good luck with that. But that's how these people think. It is. All right. 106. I'm going to have to get back to work here. But like I said, locals, I'll try to get you something on North Carolina like ASAP. All right. I may even be able to close it out quick enough where we can start to show you some stuff on locals. All right. And then by Friday, things will be pretty and we'll have it. We did some cool stuff with nationals. We'll be able to send you, but I am waiting on, this is a co-op thing, like I said. So I'm waiting on some others to be done so I can, give you an idea of everything here. And you'll get it when you see it, you'll see what I mean. All right, so let me do this. Let me go ahead and say goodbye, get back to work on that stuff, and get it out to you as fast as I can. All right, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share them far and wide. We, of course, are on everywhere. Truth, Getter, X, YouTube, Rumble, blah, 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 blah. But the best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. You guys want to actually, real quick, and I know Laura's going to kill me because she's going to be like, this is why you're always late. And she's right. I am, because I do this. I just wanted to show you, and this is in response to the, part of this was done because of the political violence survey. And then I decided, you know what? I would like to look at something. So I kept polling all the way up until these are the responses from November 14th through the 16th. And we're asking about social media activity. All right. And by age, can I share this? There's nothing I'm going to blow here if I share this with you guys, right? There isn't. Okay. Let me put it up on the screen. I'll make it bigger. By age, this is who uses what social media, which I think is kind of relevant to all of this. It's also a big reason why the PR campaign that Israel waged, the Hasbara strategy was a major failure. Okay. This is by age group, and you can see I did both buckets here. You can see that, do you use, please tell us whether you personally use each social media platform. And we did this like I said, for the political violence survey, and I saw something interesting, and I thought, you know what? I want to keep this in as we conduct national polling. So I have been doing this. And obviously, look at 6 plus, look at 12, look at 75 plus. X is just used by younger people. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that the typical way that Israel, for instance, and others, it's not just Israel, have relied on their bully campaigns and everything's propaganda, right? I'm not attacking Israel for saying this, but it hasn't landed on the 40 to 49 age group and below because, myself, I've been telling you this. If you are 50 and above and you are on the right, you are really the last group demographically that supports Israel in any meaningful way. And it may not even be a majority in some of those age groups. It's just, you're it. If you're below 50 and you're on the right or the left, it doesn't matter. Support for Israel among your group is nothing almost now. It's totally dwindled. Look at what they're consuming. So when Israel says, we didn't kill those Christians in that church, it's like, yeah, you did. And they see you did. We're not conducting a genocide in Gaza. Really? Because that I just saw on X and TikTok and YouTube. That looks like a genocide. Like, it's very difficult. They're not watching Fox News, guys. All right. They're not consuming, traditional media platforms. Look at older generation boomers. Look at the boomers. They're not watching what the rest of us are watching. So when somebody like Comic Dave Smith goes, it actually is the policy to starve out Palestinians in Gaza, the boomers go, that's crazy, that's a lie. And, all the people in Big Con go nuts, that's a lie. But the rest of us go to social media and see like members of Netanyahu's cabinet saying it out loud, right? So it matters. And I know it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it matters. Facebook is obviously big use. There's because so many older people don't use Twitter, Twitter is not used by the general pop. Actually, our number is almost identical to, I know what the research Elon Musk did. That's almost identical. And it's interesting we got to add party and stuff like that. I'm going to send this to you, locals. I'm going to add party and some other stuff to these as well, so you can look at this, because I know I'm privy to some research that Musk had done about X. And I know that we're like really over the target with what research that, marginally different in certain things. And I probably would rely on my own more than I would rely on whoever Musk got to do that research. But some of it is just demographic information that's taken because Twitter knows that demographic information. And when we have that, I'm looking at it and comparing to what we got, and we are like right on the money. So look at Facebook, though, which is different. And Facebook has certain different policies, correct? Now, you do see older people definitely are using Facebook. Why? They're not doing it only for politics, obviously. And many of them like to go to Facebook and don't want to talk about politics at all. I know several of them personally. They're there to see their grandkids, or they're there to keep in touch with old friends. And that's really what they're doing. They are not there for politics. Right? Now, if you go down to Instagram, look at the difference again. Insta, my daughter is like, Daddy, you got to get an Instagram. And she'll either say, call me daddy or father. I raised a Southern Belle, and I'm from the five boroughs, and my wife and I raised a Southern Belle. Daddy, Father, you've got to get on Instagram. And I think I do have an Instagram. I just don't use it. And Laura's like, I am going to run your Instagram because you absolutely need an Instagram. Her friends know who I am. Some of them think it's cool. Like it's they're a conservative friend group, even though she's young. Look at Instagram. I don't know what the hell I'm doing not on Instagram. Laura, get me on Instagram. And look at YouTube, which is number one overall of for the young cohort, 18 to 24, 18 to 29. But I mean, Instagram is just unbelievable with the 18 to 24 demographic. Unbelievable. 84%, 18 to 29, 82%. The only one that rivals that is YouTube, which is 89%. Among 18 to 29, the 25 to 29, 90% use YouTube. But again, look at the boomers. Look at where they are. I know this is crazy. I'm spending too much time on this. I could just easily send it to you and then we could talk about it in the next video. But Rumble is up and coming, but you can see that obviously YouTube still is outperforming Rumble significantly. But look who uses Rumble. Boomers don't watch Rumble. They don't watch people on Rumble. Young people watch people on Rumble. Unbelievable. I mean, this is really interesting stuff. Reddit, Discord, this is all scary shit. We'll talk about the implications with these two when we talk about the political violence survey, which I know we've got to get to. It's probably better to wait for all the damn noise to die down anyway. But this was significant because these two groups had some signal, man, when it came to some of the questions that we asked. And it's concerning, and we have to acknowledge it. All right, and then True Social has a bigger following than Blue Sky. Of course, they're both, about a third. Truth Social has about a third of the users as Twitter. That is roughly what we see in our research. And Blue Sky is even less than that, but it is growing and has grown since the last time we asked about it when it first came out. But you can see here that actually it's kind of funny how some of these boomers, compared to even their use of Twitter, it's like proportionately looks a little weird. It's like you can see that some of the older boomers are getting more liberal, you can see it. But yet, nevertheless, that's why I always tell people when you see 65 plus being overstated for Democratic support, what's going on there is that their super senior share of 65 plus, because their samples are so small, they're insufficient to be able to give subgroups for 65 and above and super seniors, isolating them out. You have to have a bigger sample like we do to do this. You will always see that those super seniors are more Trumpy than just the 65 overall. And if you, let's say, your 65 plus is only 6%, 75 super seniors, then you're going to get you're going to overstate Democrat support among this group. All right. It is because you have to isolate super seniors, make sure that they are adequately represented, they are properly represented, and then you will not get that problem. Although I don't know why I keep giving out secrets like that, because fuck them, let them fail. Everyone's a fucking expert these days. Let them fall on their faces, which a lot of them did just 2.5 Tuesdays ago. Let them do it. I'm giving you this for your educational benefit. But most of you guys who watch me anyway know that by now. All right. We've been over this quite a bit. All right. It's 1:15, 1:17. So I'm going to kick rocks. I'll put some more demographics in this, guys, and I'll get it up on locals. It's really interesting. Plus, it's a good primer for when we give you the rest of the information about the survey. Some will make a lot more sense to you. Blue Sky is significantly more likely. Blue Sky users are significantly more likely to justify or just flatly admit that political violence is acceptable against certain people, which is, of course, people that they feel are a threat to them, but are their political opponents. But then there's something with Reddit and Discord, which concerns me greatly and was something I was worried about from the very beginning, which is that if you are a bad actor, a bad state actor, whether it's our own state or a foreign influence, right? there is a lot of potential to harness potential violent offenders on these platforms to directly interact with them. And that's a major problem. By the way, YouTube was Thomas Crook's. Tucker report was very interesting. I'm watching that report and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, because that is exactly what I was worried about when I was doing this research. I'm like, this is kind of easy to locate, turn, and then nudge these people to do crazy things, to commit heinous acts against people who don't deserve it, like my friend. And this is, I don't know how to address it. We'll deal with one thing at a time. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Don't forget, like and share the videos if you like them. And I can't wait to play around more with these Thanksgiving things. All right, thanks for watching Between the Numbers this time. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'll see you in a couple hours probably, especially locals.